Hey everyone, my name is Ethan and welcome to another Wings of Fire discussion video. Today I'm going to be talking about, or essentially making a pitch, about why a Legends novel on the Tree Wars would make for a great addition to the series. Now that Wings of Fire seems to be making steps again in terms of novels that it's releasing, I think that it's reasonable to consider it as a possibility. Anyways, as usual, just because of how I like to organize my thoughts, I will be going over the main reasons why I believe so. The first reason is how important these events are to Arc 3 and why things are the way they are at that point in the timeline. On Pantala, this entire world is just developed without us really seeing how it managed to come to that. Of course, we are told what happened, how the Tree Wars occurred, which led to the Leaf Wings nearly going extinct, and then the Hive Wings taking over the Silk Wings, but I think that some more in-depth context towards the dynamic between the tribes could really add some insight into the reasonings behind the actions and the implications of the events of the third arc. For instance, I think it would be incredibly interesting to see how the Hive Wings went about destroying all the trees on Peninsula and what the Leaf Wings' reactions were to that and how they retaliated. We already know the basic sentiments of the sides at that point, but I think that the more significant events like this deserve to be fleshed out more than they actually ended up being. Another thing that I would love to be covered, which I will touch on later, are the dynamics between the three queens. We heard from Sequoia, I believe, about the negotiations leading up to the Tree Wars and Wasp's tyrannical nature. It'd be very interesting to see how that entire plot line accelerated and got worse and eventually led to the war and the world that we see in Arc 3. But yeah, those are just a couple of examples. All I'm trying to say that in Arc 3, the book basically tells us, so yeah, a while ago this happened and then that happened, so here we are, and we go, oh, okay. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I was never bothered by that, but I just think that it'd be cool to have that history expanded upon. The second reason why is because I think that this is an incredible opportunity for Tui because she could use the three queens as point of view characters for this book. I don't know for sure if that's the right approach to make the POV characters the dragons in power, but it would definitely be very unique and different compared to what we've gotten previously in the series. And it might also introduce that variety in perspectives like what we saw in Darkstalker Legends. We had Fathom and Clearsight, but we also had Darkstalker who was morally questionable. We have a similar situation here with the queens and with Wasp making bad decisions. Now, I'm not sure how much we'd be able to emphasize with Wasp considering how transparently evil she's depicted throughout the third arc, but I think that there could be some layers to her potentially. I mean, what if she had some kind of traumatic thing happened to her, or just something in her upbringing that led to her having that belief that she must be the one in control, otherwise others will control her. I think there could be something interesting there. Maybe there could be a situation similar to Darkstalker where at first she's not too much of a terrible queen, but then stuff happens and she falls in on herself and just goes power hungry. I don't know, there are a ton of directions that could be taken here. But alongside Wasp, we also have Sequoia and Monarch. I can imagine Monarch being kind of the peacekeeper between the queens, the more timid one, but the voice of reason. Because the books also mention that back during the Tree Wars, Sequoia was an angry queen. So it'd be interesting to see how Monarch handles the two crazy queens and her eventually making the decision to give up her tribe. We saw in the guidebook Monarch section and some of her feelings towards what went down in that time and how she felt, and I think it'd be very intriguing to see that go down in real time. The final reason, which I think is probably the most important one of them all, is that Peninsula deserves to be explored and developed much more than it has been so far. It's actually kind of sad that we've seen this entire continent be made that there's just so much opportunity for it and we just know nothing about it. I mean, look at Pyria, we've been pretty much everywhere, maybe except for, I don't know, the northern tip of the Dragon's Wing and the Sky Kingdom. Not that there's nothing left to explore in Pyria, we've just seen a pretty good amount. And then when you compare it to Peninsula, it feels like we've hardly been anywhere really. We've only seen a few hives in the Poison Jungle. Book 14 takes place back on Pyria, and then book 15 takes place mostly underground, so we've essentially only had 3 books so far that we've been able to explore Peninsula with. Now, in fairness, it doesn't look like, judging from the map, that there is much to explore geographically, but that is based on modern Peninsula. I'm sure that Tui could make Peninsula seem much richer and widespread in terms of life during or before the Tree Wars, since there would actually be forests and leafwings and silkwings living in their own villages all around the continent with actual kingdoms. I think that this would be an excellent opportunity because based on the direction it feels like book 16 took the series in, I'm not expecting us to return to Pencil in such an in-depth fashion in the main series. In fact, I will say that I'm slightly disappointed that instead of trying to develop things on Pencil more, we got a new island we've never had any mention of before, but there's always the future, or past, I suppose, in the case of the Tree Wars. So yes, in summary, everything that I just discussed is why I believe that a Tree Wars graphic novel would be a fantastic addition to the series. I mean, so far we've had 2 Legends novels, which Toei has just absolutely knocked it out of the park on. I love the alternative approach that they take with 3 POV characters alternating each chapter, and especially the time skips that occur throughout it. In my opinion, they just hit me way more than the main series books do because they aren't confined to the rest of their dedicated arc, and there's just way more freedom to them. If Toei were to go and make a Legends novel about the Tree Wars, no matter what approach she decides to take, I have confidence that it would easily be one of the best books in the series. Maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic here, but I would like to know what all of you guys think. Do you agree that this would be an interesting aspect of the series to explore? What would you want out of this novel? I would absolutely love to hear what you guys have to say because I love reading all of your comments. You always point out things that I missed or didn't consider, and it's genuinely really insightful, and I love how passionate you guys are about the series. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening to my ideas, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.